Welcome back. My name is Dr. Sanjeev Pandey and you are listening SP at Bio. In this video lecture, we will be talking about the evolutionary tendencies in plants and that brought it from gametophyte to sporophytic plant body, how it evolved in terms of the development of plant and in different groups of plants. We will see that. This diagram, it is a beautiful diagram in which different groups of plants like the thallophytes and bryophytes, pteridophytes and the spermatophytes have been shown, their life cycles have been shown, and it has been divided into two parts. Each of the boxes, these boxes have been divided into two parts. This side is, the right side is the sporophytic part, and the left side corner, this part is the gametophytic part. We see that when we move from thallophytes to bryophyta to pteridophyta and then spermatophyta, what happens? The gametophytic portions gradually decrease, whereas the sporophytic part of the life cycle gradually increase. So this is the tendency in evolution of plants. When we begin it from algae, when you move through bryophyte to pteridophyte to gymnosperms and angiosperms, this is the tendency of evolution. The sporophytic plant body has become predominant over the gametophytic plant body, and so the earlier plants were mostly gametophytic and the advanced plants are mostly sporophytic in nature. So when we see the earlier plants like the alga or the bryophytes, we see that the sporophyte is dependent on the gametophyte, and when we move along from bryophytes to pteridophytes to gymnosperms and angiosperms, then we see that the reverse is taking place, that is the gametophyte becomes dependent on the sporophytic plant body. So before we start, we must understand one thing, that these two lines which are very very significant, that zygote is the first cell of the sporophyte and spore is the first cell of the gametophyte. So this thing has to be remembered also, and one more thing has to be remembered. What are sporophyte and gametophyte? We must know that the sporophyte are structures. Spore bearing plant body is called sporophyte and the gamete bearing plant body is called gametophyte. It is as simple as that. So when we see the thallophytic life cycle, like the life cycles of the alga, here there has been a the structure of eulothrix has been drawn here, which is one of the primitive chlorophytes. It is a filamentous, unbranched filamentous alga, in which we see that there is a haplobiontic life cycle, and most of the life cycle is gametophytic. This plant body is haploid. It is gametophytic plant body, so it has an n number of chromosomes. It produces two gametes, isogametes that fuse together, and then they generate a zygote, which is the diploid cell. From the zygote, in advanced plants, we see that the zygote grows into another plant body that is called sporophyte. But here we don't see that. The zygote immediately undergoes a reduction division. So zygote is the only diploid cell. The sporophyte is being represented only by the zygote in case of many thallophytes. Not all, but many thallophytes. There are other that are haplodiplobiontic, like the ectocarpus or the laminaria or polysiphonia, which shows further advancement of triphasic life cycle. There we see that there are sporophytic generation, separate sporophytic generation, separate gametophytic generation. That's true. But in most of the cases, the thing is this, that the gametophytic generation is more predominant over the sporophytic generation, which is a small portion of the life cycle. So when we proceed from algae, that is the thallophytes, to bryophytes, in bryophytes also the sporophytic portion increases a little bit, but the most of the plant generation is the plant body, that is independent plant body, is gametophytic. Uh, the Hepaticopsida or Anthoceratopsida or Brabsida, that is the mosses, when you see the plant body that you see is basically gametophytic. It is haploid. Within that plant body, archegonium and antheridium develop. The gametes develop within them. The egg develops within the archegonium, and the antherozoites develop within the antheridium. The antherozoites go and migrate through the water film of water, and they reach into the archegonium, and they fertilize the egg, where the zygote is formed. So zygote being the first cell of sporophytic generation, the sporophyte grows over the gametophyte. The sporophyte is attached with the gametophyte in case of all the members of Bryophytes, be it a Hepaticopsida or Anthoceratopsida or mosses. We see a different kind of advancement in Anthoceratopsida that we will talk in different lecture altogether. But in general, in all the cases, what we see that the sporophyte is made up of a foot, a seta, and a capsule. The capsule contains the spores. However, the body of the capsule, as well the seta as and the foot is diploid in nature. It is sporophytic because it has been formed by the zygote, division of this zygote cell, and then the internal cell of the sporangium. This is the capsule. There is the sporangium, within which the spore mother cells are there that are diploid. They undergo reduction division to form spore tetrads. The spore tetrads fall on the ground and they germinate to give rise to again a gametophytic plant body. So this is the life cycle in Bryophytes, where we see that the gametophytic plant body is still predominant over this sporophytic plant body. Sporophytic plant body is in fact dependent on the gametophytic plant body. 50-50 condition occurs in case of pteridophyte, where we see that at the preliminary stage the sporophyte is attached with the gametophyte. When the gametophyte becomes degenerated, and then the sporophyte becomes independent and develops roots of its own, and the muscular bundles are there because it's a true stem, leaf, and roots are there in the pteridophytes. So the sporophytic generation is independent here. It is not dependent on the gametophyte. The gametophyte immediately after the formation of the zygote and the roots and a little bit of shoot, it dies out. Then what happens? This is a form taken as an example of pteridophyte. However, there are others like the Lycopsida, the Spermatopsida groups. They have a little bit different kind of life cycle, but they have an independent plant body which is sporophytic in nature, and they bear the sporangia and the spores develop within them. In case of fern, what happens in the lower side of these leaflets, small rounded bodies or kidney shaped or elongated structures develop. Those are called sorus or sori, plural sori. And within the sori, a sori is comprised of many sporangia rather. So these are the sporangia which together in groups, they grow in groups and together make the sorus. So within the sporangium, the cells undergo reduction division. The cells, the spore mother cells, they are diploid in nature, the sporocytes. They undergo meiosis or reduction division, forming spore tetrads. These spore tetrads again fall on the ground and they form a film of parenchymatous body like this. This is gametophytic plant body, and this is also independent of the sporophyte. So here we see that the gametophyte is independent of sporophyte, and sporophyte is also independent of gametophyte. Within the gametophyte, antheridia and archegonia develop. Antheridia produces the antherozoites, which are flagellated, and they, with the help of water film, they migrate to the archegonia and fertilize the egg, where the zygote develops. The zygote grows into a plant body, which is a sporophytic plant body. So this is the life cycle in case of pteridophyta, where we see that the sporophyte have become independent of gametophyte, and they are also a predominant part of the life cycle. and this increases further when we move to the spermatophyte, where we see that the plant body, the whole big structure and the small, the herbaceous plants are also there, and all are sporophytic. That the plant body that is attached with the soil is basically sporophyte, diploid. If you see, this is a case of a cycus within which we can see that this is megasporophyll. Within these are the ovules. So the ovules contain the egg, the archegonium. Within the archegonia, eggs are present. And what happens? The zygote, the antherozoid again, it reaches by here. You see a sort of what happens, a pollen tube formation, but there is no style and stigma kind of thing. Rather, these ovules through the integument, so through the micropyle, they release a pollination drop with which the pollen grains that attach, and they form, they're sucked in, and they deposit on the nucellar tissue, where they form the pollen tube, and they try to reach the archegonium, the neck of the archegonium. In case of cycus, there is an interesting phenomena that the pollen tube, it bursts open before reaching to the neck, just at the juncture of the neck of the archegonium, and it forms a pool of liquid-like body over there, a small lake-like body over there, where the sperm migrates, because the sperms of cycus uh, are flagellated, are ciliated rather. They are multi-ciliated structure, spirally present on the pollen on the gametes rather. These gametes, they migrate in that pool of liquid, and then it reaches through the neck to the. So in case of cycus, we see a kind of a hemi-siphonogamous type of fertilization. There's another aspect, we will talk about that in some other lecture. Here what we see that this plant, this is the megasporophyll. The body of the megasporophyll is basically sporophyte, and within this ovular body, the integument, the nucellus, everything is sporophytic. The gametophyte is present within the ovule. That is a multicellular structure formed by the reduction division of a megaspore mother cell, and that grows up. The three of them degenerate, the one become enlarged, and that grows up. The nuclei undergoes the prenuclear division, and then the cell walls are formed, and that forms the megagametophyte. Within that megagametophyte, some of the cell on the upper region form the archegonium, and that contains the egg. So this part is only the gametophyte. And so the gametophyte is dependent on this sporophyte. This is this megasporophyll, which is attached with the plant body, with the leafy big structure, crown-like compound leaves are present over a stump, and this is the structure of a cycus plant. In case of pinus, we see a coniferous appearance. In all the cases, what happens, there are megasporophylls and microsporophylls, and they contain the sporangia, or you can say the ovule in case of male reproductive structure, and in case of male reproductive structure, the microsporangia. The microsporangia contain the pollen grain. The pollen grains come and fall on the and attach with the pollination drop, and they're sucked in, and this kind of phenomena occurs. So this pollen grain and only the mega gametophytic region of the ovule is gametophytic, and they are attached with the microsporophyll or megasporophyll, which is sporophytic. And megasporophyll and microsporophyll are in turn attached with the plant body, with the branches of the plant body, and the plant body as a whole is sporophytic. So the sporophytic life cycle part of the sporophyte is very very predominant. The gametophyte is only represented by, this is the mega gametophyte about which I was talking, and this is the case of angiosperm, where you see the ovule, the embryo sac, which contains only 8 cells inside. This is the egg. Egg is surrounded by 2 synergists. There are 2 polar nuclei and there are 3 antipodal cells. And the male gamete, there are 2 male gametes that enter into the embryo sac. One of them fertilizes the polar nuclei, forming the 3 and triploid endosperm, and another fertilizes with the egg, forming the zygote. So this zygote is the later forms the embryo. These are embryogenic plants. The embryogenesis, in fact, occurs in Pteridophyta as well as in Spermatophyta, both in gymnosperms and angiosperms. So here we are talking about the predominance of sporophyte. So when we move from thallophyte to bryophyte to pteridophyte to spermatophytes, we see that the predominance of sporophytic part of the life cycle is taking place. It is increasing, and the gametophytic stage is gradually decreasing, and it is limited to some cells only. Within the ovule, this megagametophyte and this pollen grain, which contains 2 or 3 cells merely. This is male. This is you can call it microgametophyte, because it is a male gametophytic structure, and this is the female gametophyte, which is megagametophyte. This is the case of angiosperm, and this is the case of gymnosperms. So in gymnosperms, the female gametophyte is little elaborate compared to the to angiosperms. However, it is also a small structure, and it is present within the ovule, which is basically the wall of the ovule, the integument, the nucellus, the chalaza, the chalazarin end, and the funiculus, whatever the placenta with which it is attached with the main plant body. All these things are sporophytic in nature, diploid in nature. So what we see, we conclude this lecture with this concept that the evolution of plant body has occurred in a way that sporophyte has become gradually predominant over gametophyte. In primitive plants, we see that the gametophyte part of the life cycle was more predominant, and sporophyte was dependent on the gametophyte. But when we move to the advanced plant like the pteridophyte and the gymnosperm and the angiosperm, we see that this sporophyte becomes independent at the first stage, and then the gametophyte becomes dependent on this sporophyte, and the gametophyte is very very small structure that is attached with the gametophyte. In the angiosperms, if you want to locate which part is gametophyte, then you have to move to the flowers. Only the flower, within the flower, the sepals and petals, these are sporophytic plant body. The style, the stigma, the ovarian wall, these are sporophytic. The integument, within the ovary you get the ovule. The ovular part is also mostly sporophytic. Only the small embryo sac, which contains the 8 cells or 8 nucleated structure, that is only the female gametophyte. Regarding the other part, the androecium, that is the stamen, and the filament of the stamen, the anther, all these are sporophytic. Within the anther, the 2 locules, 2 sporangia, initially they are sporophytic, but the spore mother cell, when they go on reduction division, they form the spores, which later divide and form the pollen grains. So these pollen grains, you can call them the male gametophyte. So this is the male gametophyte, small structure that is present in in the angiosperm. So this was all about this video lecture and concept of sporophyte and gametophyte and evolution of sporophyte from gametophyte. Thank you very much. I think you enjoyed this lecture, and if you had liked this lecture, you should consider subscribing this channel and promote this channel by giving a thumbs up, and also you should click the bell button to get notification for further videos that are made in this channel.